Okay, topic numero tres. Slight sadder note. We lost Carrie Fisher recently. It sucks. And then unfortunately also lost her mother. What was it, the day after? Very sad. Sucks losing the princess that changed all of our lives forever, that we will forever envision in the bikini scene from Return of the Jedi. But she was really cool, a princess and a heroine, because she wasn't just a damsel in distress. I mean, that girl, she had some cojones on her. She was a real, it's always funny when people would say stuff like, there's no girls in Star Wars. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for having more girls in Star Wars and more diversity and all that stuff. But I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, one of the main protagonists that's not just the damsel, that's like the in-charge go-to person is Leia, and she's fucking awesome. She is a badass.
Yeah. I'm a scruffy nerf herder.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe just quantity of numbers they need more, but I just thought she was always awesome. I never saw Star Wars as guys only. In fact, when someone finally brought it to my attention, this is way after college, I was like, really? Didn't even think about that, but whatever.
They're actually petitioning to have her be a Disney princess.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I think she should be.
Yeah, I do too. Absolutely. I think that's awesome. And some people get the, I'm not even going to go down that road. I think that'd be awesome. Anyway, she was already done filming all of her scenes for episode 8, and it was leaked out on the internet. I'm not sure if this was from official channels. Yeah, it's rumored from, the blogs and talking to people that are insiders, so take this with a grain of salt. But from what we know is that she has a substantial role in 8. That's already done filming, and she had some key scenes or even a bigger role. We don't even know what that means because she didn't have a huge role in Force Awakens, but a bigger role in episode 9, so that's all going to be reworked now. How do you guys think that they're going to proceed as far as story-wise, story ideas? Where do you guys think they're going to go with this? I actually kind of assumed they were going to use less and less of the main cast. I kind of wanted to focus on them less and less. And I thought they got the perfect balance in 7. I just was kind of hoping. I don't know how you do that with Luke, though. If he's going to be the Obi-Wan character, it kind of needs to be a main one the next 2. But I just didn't think they needed really Luke and Leia.
Well, you, on top of Luke, I mean, she is Ben Solo's mother.
Yeah.
Who's Kylo Ren.
Right.
So whether,
you're right.
I don't know. I've read some stuff online too. I don't know if that confrontation happens in 8 or if it was going to happen in 9, where they wanted Ben and Leia to meet, to have a moment.
That's tragic.
I mean, that's a huge thing. I mean, if that's what they were planning on, I mean, that could have been pretty awesome.
Right.
And also they also talked about, is it going to be 8 or 9 when Luke and Leia were supposed to rejoin again? Were they supposed to come together in that, or
they've got to be coming? God, they've got to come together in 8. You'd think. I saw it, and this is no way definitive proof.
But if you think about it, think about Yoda's role in Empire. Right, so Luke could play that kind of Yoda role in the next movie. I mean, if we want to say that we're going to kind of repeat, Luke could play that Yoda role. Rey leaves. Luke stays where he's at. And it could have been the next movie where Luke and Leia actually saw each other again.
Yeah. So, I hope we get to see them together in 8, since that's the only shot we're going to. And again, this is by no way definitive proof, but I did see a set photo of both of them on set the same day. So, I mean, that could just be that one of them was there to watch or in the vicinity. But, hopefully that was there. I mean, if Rey's there training with Luke, eventually she's going to have to come back into the foray to use some of her training with whatever, ordeals they have to go through in 8. And I can't imagine her coming back into the fray of the First Order, but Luke's
Finn
like, tell my sister
carbonite?
Hi for me. I know I haven't seen her in a few years. I will later, but, I got to make sure that this island, these mushrooms aren't going to grow themselves. So.
Better go get Finn. He's encased in carbonite on Cloud City.
Disney's done such a great job with their purchase of Marvel and with their purchase of Lucasfilm, and I do you guys I assume that this is because they're really putting people in charge of these units, both Kathleen Kennedy for Lucasfilm and Kevin Feige for Marvel that also bring people like themselves that have a real care about this stuff. You know, you can tell that they really bleed this stuff, which is awesome. I think Bob Iger is probably one of the best CEO of Disney of all time. He's right up there with Jobs. Just the way he runs. He turned
Michael Eisner.
Yeah, fuck. God. Jeez. How many bullshit Disney Fox and the Hound 2 and 3 sequel crap did he try to mine out there that, oh, Jesus, I was so glad. Bob Iger did such a good job riding the ship of Disney, you know, starting with his getting back into Pixar. I'm so impressed with that guy. Everyone behind this seems to really care. Disney has proven itself. I'm just curious, when we get to something like this, you know, act of God, whatever you want to call it, where she might have been definitive of the story, do you think with the credibility that they've established so far with the story group and everyone else, we are going to get as fulfilling a conclusion by the end of episode 9 that we would? Do you think that they can still pull that off without Carrie Fisher?
Yeah, I mean, I'm confident that whatever they're going to do, whether it's with rewrites or I think they even alluded to the possibility of, you know, more inclusion of CGI, they'll do it to a degree that you know, it gives a proper level of respect to the character, and it's not a they're not just trying to shoehorn in Leia just for the sake of kind of getting her in, or they're not going to do something stupid like give her an off-screen. She was shot down in a ship,
right?
And we hear
they never do that. Do you guys think that they'll
even anything along
the Will Smith Independence Day 2?
Yeah, exactly. But whatever they're going to do, they're going to do it with a level of care, and I'm very confident that it's. However the episodes 8 and 9 do kind of come out, they're going to be in a way that as fans we're going to love watching them, and we'll and embrace like whatever kind of story they developed around this, as well as their own, you know, drive to really make something that's meaningful and really stays true to the Star Wars franchise.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys think, I mean, there's been a lot of talk on this going on the internet, and we all saw this coming ever since they did Tarkin and Leia, and I know that people talk a lot about the uncanny valley when you see something that you know isn't real. It's just hard to wrap your brains around. And I've talked to a lot of people that had no idea they were CG. I thought, you know, there's always room for improvement. I thought that they did a great job. Good enough where I'm still excited for that movie to come home and I'm going to watch it over and over and over. But then, of course, the question gets asked, now that you've opened that can of worms, where do you draw the line? Is this ethical? Is this right? They even did this on a segment on Dateline. I don't know if you guys saw it, where they interviewed the special effects supervisor over at ILM. And he said, no, I mean, we're not just shoehorning people in. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, obviously. We're not just shoehorning people in for the dollar or this, whatever. We're doing it because, A, we think Peter Cushing would have wanted this. He's a key role in that scene. It made sense for this movie. Yeah. No, we don't think that you should just now resurrect anybody or do anything anywhere, which, you know, is just, that conversation is going to be now ongoing for the rest of our lives, right? That's just natural. It's going to happen.
Well, Forrest Gump did it, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Really, like, as almost not a principal, you know, character, but really bringing them back all the way. I mean, that was like a 2-second clip that they just put Tom Hanks in.
But they did it to, like, JFK. They did it.
That's what I mean.
Where they modified the dialogue for like a real footage.
Sure.
Yeah, they modified the dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean,
don't get me wrong. I hear what you're saying, but you know, I mean, the level jump that we're talking about is actually bringing back a performance back. So here's my question to you guys, because obviously that's an ethical conversation we can have until the end of time, right, with good viewpoints on both sides. And I think we would all agree in this room, and I'm just guessing for you guys, with the quality people that we know that are running this stuff, that we've seen make this stuff and seen them be interviewed for multiple movies, they have too much respect to just do something that's disrespectful, that the majority of us would call disrespectful. Yeah. Do you guys think that they will CGI in Leia in episode 9?
No, I think they will acknowledge her death. If they want to do it right, they need to acknowledge her death. Mm-hmm. Maybe if that's rewriting the whole script or whatever, they need to acknowledge her death, involve Rilo Ken in it in whatever way possible.
Kylo Ren. Yeah. Crack another beer there, man.
Rilo Ken. Sorry. I just think it's Matt.
Let me drink my confidence juice.
But I think they need to acknowledge her death in the movie. And it's going to pay some tribute to her life, right?
We know they'll do that, right? This will be a significant. They're not just going to
I think
graze over it.
Yeah. Obviously, you know, rewriting team is in there now figuring out the new end of the story, but I think in the movie they need to acknowledge her death. That's going to be the best tribute they can pay.
What do you think they're going to CGI her in?
I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But my hope and what I feel that they would do would just be to some very minimal.
Yeah.
Almost to the degree of like what we saw in Peter Cushing.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Cushing in the.
Because we didn't get a lot of that, really. It was only a few number of seconds that we actually got of these characters up there.
Just to establish almost their presence and their gravitas, like who they are as a character.
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking about Rogue One, I mean, that's the whole thing is Grand Moff Tarkin. The shots they had him in were important shots.
Yeah.
They weren't just throwing him in the background somewhere.
Yeah. Like the end shot of Revenge of the Sith where you see this character that kind of looks like Tarkin just be there to be there. And I'm like, okay, I get it. It's just an Easter egg nod for those of us that know what it is. It just felt forced, you know?
Like Hayden Christensen. At the end of Jedi.
Yeah.
I'm like, why?
We got 45 seconds to build up what Darth Vader is. What do you got?
Exactly. This movie's been great for 2 hours. How can we ruin the last 10
And by the way, that iconic Return of the Jedi ending song that at least I remember, that Yub Yub song, let's completely replace it. Screw that.
Oh, why not? We need fireworks.
Yeah. And somehow, immediately, as soon as the Death Star blows up, the entire galaxy knows about it, and everyone is unanimously cool about it. And I'm like, trillions of people are all in agreement with one thing. If trillions of people are all in agreement that the Emperor sucks, why didn't you just overthrow him? You can't overcome I mean, come on. Whatever.
Semantics.
I agree with Dan. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I also wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. If they intentionally said, no, we're not going to do that. But if they did, I hope that's used sparingly. And if they're going to, I'm guessing that's what they do. But
there's going to be that difficulty then to really, what Matt was speaking about as far as kind of being respectful of, what she's pretty much meant to the entire Star Wars universe. There's two ways to go. Either she's there for the scenes to make a meaningful impact, or she's not. And as viewers, we're just told about it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like which episode in MASH where one of the characters died and somebody just walks in and like, yeah, so and so is dead now. There's not a good, clean way of doing that, but at the same time, the fact that she's not here and you're relying on this CGI, as much as everyone loved it, that did make me a little squeamish when I saw that in Rogue One.
Leia.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Because again, like it wasn't Peter Cushing, it wasn't Carrie Fisher there. I understand why it was important to telling the story, but as far as actors kind of doing their craft, now you're kind of in this area where we don't really need them, and we can just kind of put them in there and just kind of put them in for our own devices for the story we're kind of telling, whether it turned out really well, which it did in Rogue One, or whether it doesn't, which I'm thinking Tron Legacy. But it's a fine line. So how do you really address the fact that we want to tell a good story. We want Carrie Fisher. We want Princess Leia as part of that story. We need her to be a part of that story. But the fact that we don't have her.
I know this is a challenge. There's no real.
How do we do that dance? I mean, it's very. I mean, I'm not envious of how they have to proceed.
I was just thinking that I'm so glad that I'm not in that writer's room now, because I mean, all the other times you're like, God, how cool would that be to work with the story group and actually develop these stories and come up with ideas. And this is one thing where I would be dreading. How the hell are we going to do this? Because what there's no clear, simple answer to this. Do you just not have her and the ship got destroyed that was very sacrificial in the beginning that changed? I mean, I don't know how you do this.
Yeah, you have to pay your respects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
however
how?
They want to do that. I mean, if that's a ship that gets destroyed or that's a planet that she's on that gets blown up, you have to do something to pay your respects.
God, if they blow up another fucking
memorial.
planet,
there has to be
swear to God.
The burning fire like Darth Vader got.
Mm-hmm.
The burial mound or whatever it was.
Oh, difficult thing to do. I'm just glad that we've got the people at the helm that we do, because if this was take the faith that I have in the people that are running DC's extended universe and then do everything opposite, and then you have Disney.
Yeah. I can't imagine.
We can just recast her. It's not that important.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Shit.
Hey, Princess Leia. Wink.
Fran Drescher in there. Oh my god!
You know, this isn't just replacing Iron Man's partner like we did in Iron Man 2 with what was his name, Don Shield,
Rhodey?
Yeah. This is fucking Princess Leia, irreplaceable. Period. You just.
Yeah. Well, can you imagine if George Lucas still had his hands on this? What he would have done?
You know what though?
Natalie Portman aged.
As long as Jesus Christ, that's never gonna leave my head.
Just put her in an old woman's suit and put her out there.
As much as it's easy to bash on Lucas, and I'll be one of the first people in line to do some of his decisions, I have no problem with his storytelling. It's just his directing. You know what I mean? Like his ideas that didn't work in the prequels, most of them were execution. Shitty delivery because he just doesn't care about acting that much. It's like, no, it's just on the page. Just do it. Okay, that's good. Next. Blue screen, yeah, it's fine. But when you take his ideas and
I got lunch at 12. So let's wrap this
faster
up.
and more intense. He's known as saying that's all he says. It's faster and more intense. That's it. But when you take him out of the directing chair, because he's a brilliant guy that really understands psychologically what has impacted people on an emotional level for thousands of years. He did a lot of research before. I mean, how it's the poetic, how these movies kind of rhyme, you know, with themselves. They keep saying some of the similar stuff that with Anakin destroying the Trade Federation ship just like Luke does. All this stuff is intentional, like a lot of the great stories from the Iliad and Homer's Odyssey and stuff that repeats itself. He's a brilliant guy. Perfect example of that. Look what happened when you took his story ideas and just took him out of the directing chair. You got the Clone Wars, which was fucking awesome. It's what you always wanted to get out of the prequels. And now we're getting with Rebels. And I think we got that out of A New Hope, Empire, and Jedi because, yes, he is brilliant. He's just not that great of a director, I don't think. And even when it came to A New Hope that he did direct himself, the editors even said, we were just putting up on screen every frame we had down to the last frame on the reel. And then we won an Academy Award because no one's ever seen anything like this. We won an Academy Award before we were even thinking about winning Academy Awards. And then you take him out and you have Irving Kershner direct Empire. And I don't remember the name of the guy that did Jedi, but it was somebody else. They were great because then those other directors got great performances and we got lucky in A New Hope because Harrison Ford's awesome. Mark Hamill delivered his performance with these crazy lines, at least honestly and believably, and Carrie Fisher did an awesome job. I don't think that was George directing. It might have been with the animatics and the special effects and his ideas and pulling this stuff together and the overall story. I just think it's his directing. So as far as what would he have done in this situation, as long as he wasn't directing it, I would have faith in him. I'm actually curious what his ideas were for 7, 8, or 9 that they threw away. You know what I mean? Because I loved the Clone Wars. I loved Star Wars Rebels.
I kind of thought, though, like in the interviews with him, that he never wanted to make 7, 8, or 9.
He said
he
both.
Got bagged so bad on 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, he's changed.
Like, well, what'd you expect? This is the story.
Yeah, it got so artificial that his lack of directing. I guess another way to put that would be getting great performances out of your actors just isn't that strong. And boy, did that get highlighted in the prequels. I mean, some of that stuff.
What did he
just
make
sheer
though before
crap.
Star Wars? American Graffiti?
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't a bad movie.
No, you got great performances out of the actors. I think when you got to the prequel,
there were some really great actors in that
when
movie.
you get to the prequels, George Lucas at this point is a god. Anything he says goes. So when we go on a blue soundstage and he's like, okay, I just need to do some pickup shots. You go over here, look this way. Okay, now you're in a big hall and Yoda's right there and deliver this. Okay, go. Okay, faster, more intense.
You're on an
no, that's good.
line,
we got
jump now.
You know, completely different versus when you're filming great actors out in the American, what was in the 50s or 60s that it was based off of, American Graffiti, where they get to act and stuff. It was just the artificialness really came across. Yeah,
they're becoming the characters.
Yeah, I don't know. This is something that is just really tragic that it had to happen now. I mean, she's only 60 years old, but I have faith in the story group. It was just definitely not a conversation I'd like to be sitting on with the story group too. So,
you know, thinking about it this week before we end the topic, I know a few weeks ago we talked about spinoffs, and I got to thinking this week, what would be a great spinoff? Not Luke, because Luke was a moisture farmer on Tatooine. But Princess
Let's go
Leia,
get some power converters.
Actually, Princess Leia, though, was working behind the scenes. She was a rebel.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you want to do something, you want to put a woman in a power character, that would be a great Star Wars spinoff.
It's not a bad idea.
What did she do?
Yeah, especially given her age. I mean, yeah, she's a senator in her teens. You know,
Mm-hmm.
she has a lot of exposure to the entire system. I mean, she's making runs to planets. Yeah, she's doing espionage, covert espionage.
Yeah, she was on Rebels.
Yeah. And I mean, she's doing all this stuff, and just given her, her upbringing as an adopted daughter of someone who's very.
How did she acquire those skills?
Yeah.
As a princess, right?
Yeah. How did she? How did she?
Well,
grow up?
that makes total sense. Bale's the master of that. Of course, he's gonna have his daughter. You know what? That'd be great to see.
We want to
Yeah.
see that. That'd be a great story to tell.
Yeah.
You know what'd be awesome too? Now that you bring that up, how when they interviewed J.J. Abrams after The Force Awakens, they asked, "Well, why isn't Leia become a Jedi?" And he says, "Well, I just think that the realistic nature of where the character would have gone, it was just a choice she made. You know, the Empire's gone. You can read some of the stuff that goes in between, like Bloodlines. Awesome book that shows what happens with the Senate. There's no, I'll really quick sum up. No executive branch anymore with the new government they created, the New Republic.
Well, they don't end the Senate until the first movie.
Yeah.
Until a new. Hope.
No. I'm talking about after. I'm talking about after Return of the Jedi. Between Jedi and 7, what happens there after the Empire's gone? Does that make sense?
Okay.
But anyway, they talk about that in between. But anyway, J.J. Abrams was just saying, I think it's just a choice she made. This is the area, the world that she knows. This is what she wanted to go to kind of help guide it and direct it. But we know that she's still Force sensitive. I mean, she's the son of Anakin, or the daughter of Anakin Skywalker. We could tell it in Empire when she could hear Luke. We could tell it in 7 when she felt Han die. You know what'd be cool is
and her adopted father knew too.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what'd be interesting is
what kept her from seeking out Yoda.
Well, yeah,
she knew of Ben Kenobi.
Yeah, but she has no idea she's Force sensitive, I'm assuming, until... Remember, she even tells Luke, you have some kind of power
she knows of a Jedi.
I could never have, and I don't understand. Well, I guess my point to kind of agree with what you're saying is that'd be cool to see her in her younger years, having the aptitudes or the awareness or whatever you want to call it, being Force strong, never knowing that you are, and how that helps her excel at whatever she does. You know, that'd be kind of interesting to see, because that's a way different attitude to touch on someone that's Force sensitive and strong in the Force, because all we've ever seen in every incarnation is strong in the Force, let's teach them a little bit, here's a lightsaber, don't go to the dark side. And don't get me wrong, it's great every time we see it, but seeing it from a completely different take, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just thought about that this week. I mean, I was like, a Princess Leia movie from between the third and the fourth.
That could be anything.
I mean,
you could do a movie, you could do comic book series.
Spring Break.
Yeah. Princess the Spring Break.
On Tatooine.
Throw out some little Easter egg references where she sees some slave outfits. It's like, ugh, you never catch me. I wouldn't be caught dead in one of those things or something.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
She hooks up with some guy that's a moisture farmer on Tatooine on Spring Break. It's like...
He had
your
dreamy
sister,
feather
dude.
bangs.
Yeah.
I met him at Tashi Station. Things just kept escalating to the next level, but I think I'm in
don't know,
love.
we
There
went
was
to Mos
something that
Eisley
just
this one
felt
time.
very special about this. I can't explain it. It's like he could read my thoughts.
Summer loving.
Oh, wow.
Be a blast.
This is so now how I expected to end that topic, too. We're going to go ahead and let sleeping dogs lie at that point. Okay, cool. Ladies and gentlemen, please don't comment on this topic.
Or comment. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.